Excuse me, do I have your attention? Now, forgive kind of a gimmicky beginning, but really this sets up the whole point of what I'm going to say in the next couple minutes. What has your attention these days? What are you thinking about? Because the things that we think about shape who we are and where we go and what we do. I recently listened to a podcast with Dr. Bruce Perry, a psychiatrist, clinician, researcher, he's famous for something called the neurosequential model of therapeutics relative to child trauma and treating it. But long story short, he talked about research done during the last American election where they noticed a huge spike in anxiety among the seniors population in America. And they linked it to the fact that so many of them were glued to their televisions, glued to the news, watching the Hillary this and Donald that, and on it went. And as they dwelled in the uncertainty of the times and the turmoil and the back and forth of the election, the anxiety went through the roof. The news had their attention and it affected their day-to-day life, not in some sort of spiritual, otherworldly sense. It affected their day-to-day life. What we think about matters. We live in a world where there is a constant war for attention, but the war is fought by seduction. The carrot, it seems, is the preferred implement, not the stick. And so we can talk about deliberately addictive smartphone apps, and we can talk about clever product placements and provocative imagery. We can talk about clickbait journalism, and on the list goes. We live in a world where there is a war for our attention. And if you think about it, we feel it and we experience this every day. What we think about matters. Now, backing up a little bit more, we have this idea, we watch ads and we think, what kind of fool is influenced by such an obvious Wendy's Baconator ad? But we're fools. We're not nearly as autonomous and independent as we think. In fact, the research backs up that human beings are easily manipulated. Our desires and our hopes and our dreams are easily preyed upon to get us not just to become a certain kind of person in what we typically think of as a spiritual sense. It shapes our spending patterns and our choices of retirement and where we'll live and what we'll buy and on the list goes. It shapes our daily life. What we think about shapes who we are becoming and where we're going and what we do. The late Dallas Willard believed that the most important thing about us and the key to effective spiritual formation into the likeness of Jesus is to focus on what it is that we think about. And above all else, that we might journey into a place where God and his kingdom are always on our mind. And if you think about it, this is the witness of Scripture. The Psalm 1, begins telling us what not to do. And then what does it tell us to do? It says that the blessed ones are the ones who meditate on the law of God day and night, so that in season they bear fruit. It affects their lives. It affects their communities, what they think about. Or we can go to other famous verses, whatever's good, whatever's true, whatever's noble, whatever's right, whatever's lovely. And I know I'm not quoting it exactly right, but you get the point. Think about such things, the Apostle Paul said. Or elsewhere he said, fix your eyes and your hearts on things above. Or we could go to the example of Jesus. What did Jesus think about? Have you ever asked that question before? We're told in John 5 that Jesus says that he could only do what he saw his Father already doing. So God had Jesus' attention. That was the heartbeat of his life and ministry. And I suspect, in fact, I'm quite sure it did begin when he started preaching and teaching. That was his life. God had his attention. See, this isn't something that can only be done if you're a pastor and you only work an hour and a half a week and you have nothing else to do. This is something that can be done in the midst of your crazy days on the front lines of healthcare. This is something that can be learned in the midst of the oil and gas downturn, in the midst of parenting 3 cooped up children, or whatever else your reality is. What we think about matters, and we have an ability to choose. And so, friends, in a world where there is a war for your attention, you still have freedom to choose. So what are you thinking about? God bless.